All Quiet on the Western Front was set in Germany during World War I. The characters of the book go back and forth to the front lines to fight in real battles from World War I. The battles that connect to All Quiet on the Western Front are the Battle of Ginchy, the Battle of the Somme, and the Battle of Verdun. Most of these battles included the French and British as the Allied forces against the Germans. In the book, there are minor details that connect where the characters are to these battles. This video will explain what each of these battles that Paul and his company were in during World War I. The Battle of Ginchy, September 1916. This battle, between the French and British against the Germans, was an Allied attack on the town of Ginchy at the end of the Battle of the Somme. The Germans knew of the attack to come and were preparing with barbed wire and reinforcements of new troops. The Allied attack started with a large bombardment that lasted until later in the afternoon, which was when the attack started. The Allies took the city, and this was one of the biggest Allied advancements of World War I. The Battle of the Somme, July through November 1916. Between the Germans versus the British and French on the Somme River. The French were being crushed at Verdun, so this battle was called to relieve the French. The battle started with a heavy bombardment by the British to damage the German front. After the bombardment was the British push. This push damaged the German front, but it was followed by a successful German counterattack. Even though the British weakened the German lines substantially, they did not get through. Both sides consider themselves victors of this battle. The Germans saw themselves as victors because they stopped the advancement. On the other hand, the British saw themselves as victors because they weakened the German line. The Battle of Verdun, February through December 1916. It was the biggest battle of World War I between the Germans versus the French and British forces. North of the town of Verdun, around its forts and hills. It was a German offensive against the French forts using artillery, gas, and troops. Trench warfare was used along with mustard gas and aerial combat. The battle started with the German attacks on the French. After the French had regrouped, they counterattacked the Germans and defeated them. At the end of the battle, the Germans had lost 340,000 men, while both France and Britain combined lost 360,000 men. The Allies won the battle. The 100 Days Offensive, August to November 1918. The 100 Days Offensive was an Allied push to end the war. During this time, the Allies broke through the German defenses to force the Germans to seek armistice. At the end of the war, German casualties were right around 760,000, while Allied casualties were at about 700,000.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.